On cross-check systems, both from DCF, Dr. Carla Whiteside-Hicks, and also from Equifax, Mr. Bill Rowe and Mark Delante. Apologize for the late start, but we're just stuck on the House floor for a little bit longer today than normal. We have about a half an hour, so we'll try to go through this pretty quickly and do what we can. So with that, we'll start with requests for committee-sponsored bill drafts for introduction. Are there any? Representative Owsley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have RS 0195, an act concerning the HOPE Act and repeal of statutes therein.
Any questions, objections to that? Seeing none, the request is accepted. Any other committee-sponsored bill drafts for introduction? And because I think this is the last day, I'll request again at the end of committee as well. So we'll open that back up at the end of committee as well. So any from the audience? Request for bill drafts? Seeing none, we'll move on to the presentation. Director of Economic and Employment Services, Kansas Department of Children and Family. Welcome to the committee, Doctor.
Thank you. Good afternoon, committee. So I believe you all have an electronic copy of this document. You're making faces at me. Okay. So I'm obviously not going to read it, but there is a document that you should have that lists all of the different ways, I shouldn't say, most of the different ways that we verify information. So our programs are primarily income-based. So for cash assistance, child care assistance.
Sorry, Doctor, quick interruption here. There's a little bit of miscommunication on the copies for the committee. They are on the S drive for our committee if you want to pull them up. Gary did print off a copy for me if anybody wants to see it. But this is, can you give us a general, what is the handout about? Or,
Yes. So as I was saying, for child care assistance, food assistance, cash assistance, our low-income energy assistance program, those are all income-based. They have different federal guidelines in terms of income, but we do have to verify income. For certain programs, we also have to verify citizenship. For example, for child care, the child has to be a U.S. citizen to be able to be eligible for those benefits. So the list that you will have when you pull this document up just really details the verifications that we have. We use Internal Revenue Service. So if you are self-employed, we can get your tax return from the previous year to be able to budget what income we should for your eligibility. We look at Casper to determine, so for example, for cash assistance, if you have had a drug felony within a certain period of time, you are not eligible to receive cash assistance. So we can look up those records there online. Child support services, we can see that income, whether or not you're paying or receiving. We do have some interfaces with Department of Commerce, Department of Corrections, KDHE, KDOL, all this lottery. We get information from them. There's also a national system that is used that helps us to determine whether or not someone is receiving food assistance in another state, because you cannot receive food assistance in two states at the same time. For U.S. citizenship, we use the SAVE platform, and that allows us to take the information from your citizenship documentation, enter that into the federal government's database, and we can then see whether or not, what your citizenship status is in the United States to determine whether or not you're eligible for benefits. And that, again, all of those are detailed on the document that you have.
thank you, Doctor. Are there all these are different platforms?
Correct.
Different locations where
Yes.
you have to go. How many total, if you were to?
Probably 20 different platforms that we use. There are 18 on there. Thank you.
Any questions Representative Owsley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you. So just out of curiosity, and I don't think it will, but will the C-SWIS system, when that comes online for DCF, make this process any simpler?
The CWIS system?
Yeah.
Or on the child welfare side? No,
Okay.
no, that will not impact this.
Representative Bergkamp.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just reading through this here. So is most of this automated then, it looks like?
Most of it is, yes, or portions of it are automated. Some are just automatic matches. Others are, we get an automated report, and then staff manually go in and verify information and update cases as needed.
And does it run like once a month as a cross-check?
It's different for every verification that we have. We get some, so for example, from the EBT, for the cards to look at, say, out-of-state usage, we get those daily. Department of Labor, we get those, we can access those real time, but of course, those records are updated quarterly.
Thank you.
Okay. Representative Humphreys.
Thank you. And I'm just pulling up the document on my phone, sorry. But so can you tell, in all of your checking and everything, are there errors when you're looking at determining those benefits, or, how do you go back and check the accuracy, or how does that all work?
Absolutely. It's related to actually all of our cases, but especially food assistance and child care assistance. We have case reviewers in every region, and they review a certain number of cases. Our supervisors in eligibility are required to go back and review cases that those on their team have processed, and we track payment accuracy, whether or not the verifications were made, did the person document correctly. Yes, we do verify.
Okay, all right, thank you. Appreciate that.
Representative Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the presentation today. As a follow-up question to my colleague, when we do that verification, how much error, if any, do we find in that?
It varies because, and I would say that it's fairly low. However, for food and nutrition services, we do have a corrective action plan for our payment accuracy rate. I will say, I believe there may be 2 states that do not have a corrective action plan for that. And we are actively working to improve those numbers.
Follow-up, if I may, Mr. Chair. When you say fairly low, are we talking below 2%, below 20%? Where are we at?
It should be below 20%. I can give you the actual numbers. That information is reported to Food and Nutrition Services. I believe it's on their public website, but we can give you that information. So our most recent letter, formal letter that we have from Food and Nutrition Services that shows what our payment accuracy rate is and what we need to do to improve it.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Humphreys.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, do you have that data for the other programs also? And we could get that, or?
We do. For food assistance and for child care assistance, those accuracy ratings we report to the federal government. So I would have a official document from the feds that say, here's what your rates are. For the other programs, we have internal records because all of those case reads are put into a system. And yes, we can run reports from that.
That'd be great. Thank you so much.
Representative Brownlee Page.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You said you have to prove your citizenship. So if one is not a citizen and they come from some other place, how are they eligible? What do they have to do?
It depends on the program.
Okay.
So for, again, for child care, if the child is not a U.S. citizen or a naturalized citizen, then that child is not eligible to receive child care subsidy.
And excuse me, what about the other programs?
It varies by program. I can actually, we also have a list. It's a verification matrix that our that our eligibility staff will use, and they often refer to that. And it will tell you if we're verifying identity for each program, whether or not that's a requirement and where that, what that requirement would look like. So yes, we can provide that document.
Can I ask the follow? And I ask that because you often hear people say, let's use, for example, and I'm not trying to offend anyone, Hispanics who are coming over, people, oh, they're giving them everything. They can just walk in and get everything free. So I was just wondering, can you help me clear that up so that I can explain it to people?
There are different eligibility requirements for each program that we have. And we can provide a document also that gives you, that outlines the basics. And most of those eligibility requirements are not set by the state. They are set by the federal government. So that citizenship requirement for childcare, that's not a Kansas regulation. That is a federal law. And yes, we can provide a kind of a cheat sheet that would give you that information.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Hellwig.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation today. This seems like a lot of things to check and go back and verify.
Yes.
So is there a backlog in your department on verifying and checking things? And if so, how big?
So you probably know, we did have a backlog. 2.5 years ago, we were an average of 356 days out on the tracker, meaning it would take us more than a year to get to whatever document you sent to us. As of this morning, we are processing, depending on what service you need from us, we're processing anywhere from 3 days to, I believe, 28 days. And so actually verifying the information doesn't necessarily cause the backlog. I would say what can cause the backlog is if we can't get the information right then we have to pend your case, and we give you 10 days then to provide us the information. And then when we get the information, it goes back on our tracker, and it may take us another 10, 15 days.
So are you working on any other ways to increase the efficiencies between these agencies? And if so, what?
Yes, we're really trying to leverage technology. So the KEYS is the eligibility determination system that we use, and we share that system with ks.gov. ks.gov actually owns the contract for that. So we try to do things such as, if I know that ks.gov is going to purchase a different functionality within KEYS, we try to work together on that so that we can then do some cost allocation and share the cost of that. Or if they already have it and 2 years later we realize, okay, we want that also, that would really benefit us, but we didn't have the money 2 years ago, but now we do, we can likely leverage that existing technology so it won't cost us as much to be able to do that. So we are trying to do that. We have several bots for our application. So if you submit, I will use LEAP as an example. If you submit your LEAP application online and you give it through our self-service portal and you provide all of the information that we have told you we need, our bot can register your application, verify your information, and issue benefits in 4.5 minutes without a person touching your case.
You brought up a good question when you talk about the bots and the online application. What's the procedure? Many of these people do not have internet or access. So what's the procedure in that case?
We do have paper applications. Paper applications are still available. We work with K-State Extension across the state. We have helping agencies, and we actually have a cheat sheet that we give to them so that they know how to help individuals either apply online or to complete a paper application and submit that.
Any further questions? Doctor, imagine you're going to stay till the end of the committee meeting. There might be other questions. And even, when the next presenters present, if there's clarifications needed, if you could be available, that'd
Absolutely.
be excellent. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you.
All right, committee, we can go past 3. I know a few members need to leave at 3. Try not to go too far past, but if you need to leave, feel free to get up and go. Next up, we have Bill Rowe and Mark Delaney from Equifax. Welcome to committee.
Good afternoon, Chairman Camp Committee. Thank you for allowing us to be here today. Again, my name is Bill Rowe, and I'm Director of Government Relations for Equifax. Joining me is my colleague, Mark Delante. He is the account executive for Kansas. Now, Mark is a Missourian, and he graduated from MU, so please don't hold that against him. You know, as a proud Jayhawk, Mark, that's kind of tough to say. So, but jokes aside, we appreciate the opportunity to be here today. The state of Kansas and Equifax have been partners since 2007. In fact, a little over a year ago, the state extended our contract for 5 additional years. In Kansas, the state primarily relies upon Equifax and a service we call the work number, which assists in benefit eligibility determination and redetermination for Medicaid, SNAP, TANF, and child support services. Today, we're here to discuss those services that we provide and additional services that we believe would help in improving the benefit verification system. So I'll hand it over to Mark and let him talk about the services we provide in greater detail, and then additional services that we believe would be an enhancement to the system. And I'd be thrilled to answer any questions after Mark's testimony. Thank you.
I did not know he was going to speak of Mizzou versus KU, Missouri versus Kansas, but he doesn't know we're going to Jeff City tomorrow. I haven't told him yet. Good afternoon, Chairman, our camp, and the distinguished members of the committee. My name is Mark Delante, as Bill said. I'm the account executive with Equifax. I've actually been with Equifax 20 years now, and I've been serving as the account executive for the state of Kansas for half of that time, so close to 10 years. I think I'll just go off cuff here a little bit and talk about cross-check in general and just give a high level of what I'm going to read here informationally, but we provide, as Bill said, the work number, which is an employment an employment verification tool. You can get income amounts direct from the employer. We do that today. We have a contract for 5 years with DCF and KDHE, but we're here to talk a little bit more about broadening that relationship. There are other data sets that Equifax has access to that can bolster that and have a broader view, if you will, true to the terminology cross-check beyond just employment income. And as you heard, I mean, it's challenging. There's a ton of data sets out there that these departments have to verify. And so our intent here is to try to hope to simplify that process. So I'll go into a little more detail about what we do now, what we can offer, and then I'd be happy to take any questions you might have. So we're very proud of the decade-long partnership with the state of Kansas. Specifically, we partner with KDHE and DCF for the work number piece. Kansas has primarily relied on just the work number, employment income data, to assist in their benefit eligibility determinations, redeterminations as needed for SNAP, TANF, Medicaid, and child support. The work number is the nation's largest database of up-to-date employment income records and represents more than 70% of the U.S. non-farm workforce. We have over 182 million active employee records coming from 3.8 million contributing employers. With that said, the work number can provide insights not readily available to these agencies and through other common sources. Last year, KDHE and DCF leveraged the work number to access roughly 800,000 employment income verifications in real time through both our web portal and direct API integration into the KEYS system, Kansas Eligibility and Enforcement System, as was mentioned previously. We also offer additional data sets beyond just the work number. One is Contact Complete, and one is Incarceration Intelligence. Going to Contact Complete, it's a data set that provides agencies with the most recent contact information. So think address, phone, email. It's not always easy to keep in touch with these folks. And it also provides indicators for both death and marital status. Contact Complete covers 95% of the U.S. population.
It offers access to 295 million individuals, and this information allows agencies to locate their ever-changing beneficiary population and determine if these beneficiaries have become ineligible due to a change in address or death status update. Additionally, beyond the work number and contact complete, we've got incarceration intelligence. It's the largest nationwide incarceration data network with direct jail management systems interfaces to over 3,000 jails and correctional facilities across the country, where agencies can source current incarceration status information, allowing these agencies to suspend benefits of those who are incarcerated and also to resume those benefits immediately upon release. And as of this testimony, KDHE and DCF, like I said, only leverages the work number, and they do that at application renewal when caseworkers or the KEYS system automatically requests a record for a specific individual. And if we have that data on the work number, we have that income information, we'll return that via a caseworker web portal or that KEYS API integration. So as states' needs and priorities have changed, our Equifax offerings continue to evolve, and this is really what I'm here to talk about. More additional data sets beyond the work number. But so not only does Equifax offer these additional data sources in Contact Complete and the incarceration data, as I mentioned previously, but we have also evolved that model to which our data sources are utilized. By combining these three data sets and delivering all of them, the work number, Contact Complete, and incarceration intelligence, social service agencies can broaden their view into critical data elements to enable timely decision-making across the benefit lifecycle, from initial determination all the way to recertifications and renewals. And the next data element, the next evolution in accessing these data elements is, and this is according to the policies of each of these agencies, would be to monitor the current beneficiary population and return alerts for any changes that could impact eligibility and proactively look at those data sets and send indicators of a change. A few examples of this would simply be new employment information or a percent increase or decrease in pay if someone is incarcerated or if someone simply moves out of state and relocates. So proactively monitoring caseloads results in increased caseworker capacity, improved efficiencies at the department, minimizes churn. Churn is when someone gets removed from benefits, has to reapply, then gets put back on and may come back off, and it's just a lot of work for the applicant, the beneficiary, and the department. And then the recommended delivery method for this would be via an API integration. We can do batch runs where they would periodically check these on a regular basis, but an API integration is where you've got these data sets being sent directly to the department into the KEYS system. The agency would still have their ability to do one-off where they could use a web portal or batch and not needing the integration. They are currently integrated with us, KDHE, as stated before, and DCF, they use the KEYS system, so there would be no IT investment or limited IT investment. I don't want to say no IT investment. Limited IT investment to basically broaden the scope of what data sets are coming through the KEYS integration. So with that said, I want to say thank you for allowing us to share our perspective today. We regard the state agencies like KDHE and DCF as very important partners. We recognize the challenges they've been through and they are currently facing in verifying all of these data sets for each individual program. And with this committee's and legislature's support, we look forward to playing a continued role in helping Kansas receive their benefits in a timely, efficient, and effective manner. Thank you very much for your time. Do you have any questions? Happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mark. Questions to committee, Representative Pickert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you have a lot of benefits. What's the cost?
That depends on how often they're going to run the verifications. I mean, if it's tied in directly to an API, depends on the caseload. I mean, how many folks they want to monitor, depending on what programs. I don't have a direct answer to what that would look like. I'd have to work with the department on scale. The department currently spends right under $8 million with this annually. I think you should expect that to increase some. But I think that we've talked about this in the past around efficiencies and ROI. We believe that this could, at a very conservative level, do a 3-to-1 return on investment with the additional data sets.
And I'll add to that. For Medicaid, there is a federal reimbursement of 75%. So the state, and the vast majority, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, the vast majority of these verification checks are through Medicaid. And so there's 75% reimbursement from the federal government. I believe SNAP is 50%. 50 from the federal government. So while the contract.
Sorry, so we are live stream, we're live.
Oh,
And things are recorded on YouTube and visible live or viewable live. So if you can, just when you come to the mic, if you can reintroduce yourself and also speak directly into the microphone, or else it's very difficult to hear.
Sorry about that. Again, Bill Rowe with Equifax. Apologize for that. But to repeat, the federal government has a 75% reimbursement for Medicaid and a 50% reimbursement for SNAP benefits. So while the contract is right now, the yearly expense is just under $8 million, the state actually doesn't pay a large portion of that.
And Representative Bergkamp.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess it's impressive how much data you guys have. Like, why do businesses use you guys for, like, how are you able to ascertain so much data from, like, real time? I'm just surprised that so many use.
Yeah, well, there's two sides to the business. There's the employers that, especially just Equifax is also the credit bureau, but we are not necessarily providing anything relative to credit to government agencies. But there's two sides to the business. Essentially, employers were having to field all types of phone calls and fax messages and from auto lenders and government agencies like this saying, Mark needs benefits. Does he work there? I mean, Walmart had for example, there were companies that had call centers that were fielding these, and they were able to then, do an API integration feed to us, sending the employment income data to us, and alleviate that burden on them. And so there's multiple needs for employment income data. I mean, there is beyond credit. It is used on the commercial side as well for auto lending and home lending. But on the government space that we're discussing here, it's also leveraged by multiple state and federal agencies. CMS and SSA use us from an income perspective to verify income on individuals via the work number. Not making sure I answered your question there. I mean, I wanted to give the broader.
I was just curious what the incentive on the business side was.
The incentive on the business side, yeah, it streamlines processes, and I mean, there's liability that can be set if stuff's misstated by a manager on a phone call and someone asked if someone worked there. So this is just clean, and it's just a database coming directly from the payroll systems.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Welcome.
Representative Roser.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for clarification, I know it's two separate entities, but they're connected. Could you clear the air on the ruling a couple weeks ago against Equifax, the $15 million fine or whatever that was?
Do you know that?
I
apologize. I'm not aware of that one.
It's my understanding that there were flaws in the system, so there was a fine. Basically, what the evidence or the investigation had found was that there were flaws in the data, and so it was preventing certain people to be eligible for different programs and or loans.
Right. I don't know if that falls under. I apologize. I just have not heard about that from I didn't know if it was our credit data. If it's our credit data, they're out of Atlanta. I'm sorry, I'm just not as knowledgeable on that side of it, and for loans. But I'm not aware of any ruling on the work number side relative to government verifications. I don't know, Bill, if you.
Well, it's the same data, right?
No, sorry.
Because it's the same data that we're using on either the lender side. It's the same individual, but we're also using for qualifications on these benefit sides.
Okay, so I didn't know if it was credit data or the work number data specifically, because those two are separate. So if
Right.
it was the work number data on the commercial side, I was not aware of that, so I apologize.
Okay.
Yeah, and then, okay. So, thank you.
Thank you.
So it seems like, if I can oversimplify, where the state of Kansas is using part of an Equifax package, and you guys are here in Kansas to try to show us the benefits if the state of Kansas were to expand and use more of the Equifax package, correct?
I think it's the methodology by which you access the data as well. I think right now it's reactive and only when you need to at a time of application or a renewal recert. This could be more proactive, not only broaden beyond, so the work number, contact complete, and incarceration. So broaden what you're checking, but how often you are checking in that. I think I just heard the terminology being used today about further cross-checking, and I think I would say that also consolidating through one vendor, there's, the ability to get a more advantageous contract with multiple services. There's still a lot of desperate data sources that these departments are going to have to do, and we're trying to streamline that and help the agencies.
Representative Brownlee Page.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sir, can you give us, she asked a question, and I'd like to know, can you find out? You said you didn't know.
I will find out, yes.
Asking about making the system work and make the people do right, then we need to make sure the equipment and the things that we use to verify information is right. Because that's not fair to them, because it makes it look like they're the crooks and the thieves, but it's something wrong with the system. No offense, I'm not saying you're doing that, but I'd like to know, can you find out so we can make sure everything is correct and on the up and up? Because it needs to be correct on both sides, not just one. Thank you.
Understood, yes, and I apologize. I should have said that I will follow up further with that and find out more information. I will.
So on that note, is that something you can send to Gary Dieters, and then and then just knowing that would be sent out to the committee and also those on the committee's email list? Would that be okay for you?
Absolutely, and I'll rely on Bill to know how we should structure getting that to you, but I'll get that information and I will have it sent over through Bill and folks, but I will find out more information.
Thank you.
But if Gary's the right person, yes, that's who we send it to.
Yes, please. And then, so on this kind of expanded package concept, more frequent data checks, are you seeing other government organizations using the full package, and what are the cause effects that you're seeing?
Yeah, so as stated earlier, we are conservatively think it's 3-to-1 ROI. What I've seen more of is states use these, but they use them in silos and don't use them at the same time together, and they don't source them from one specific agency. There are federal data sets that you can get, for example, with income, but it's sometimes delayed by 6 months, 2 quarters. And so these agencies are leveraging multiple different data sets, but they're not timely. They're coming from multiple different things. People have to log into different systems. This is through one pipeline, if you will, right into the KEYS system. And so I would say that this is a situation where they are leveraging these data sets, but disparately and separately, and not through one system.
Very good. Committee, any further questions for Mr. Delaney? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time today.
We'll be following up soon enough. Committee, that kind of concludes the presentations. Returning to the request for committee-sponsored bill drafts. I have 2 requests, RS 0853. That's the one I already did, so I apologize. There's one other one, then RS 0971. And this is SNAP ENT Employment and Training Program requirements for parents with certain dependent status. Questions, objections? Seeing none, the request is accepted. Any other bill draft requests? Seeing none, committee next week. I think everybody saw the agenda. We have 2 bill hearings set for next week. And seeing no other comments, we are adjourned. Thanks.